Welcome to It's What Our Characters Would Do, the podcast where a neutral good ranger and a chaotic neutral warlock talk about RPGs, roll funny dice, and give away some sweet loot. I'm Bob World Builder.
And I'm Grace World Destroyer.
And today we're talking about new year, new games, 2024, all the stuff that we played, I guess, this past year and that we are looking forward to next year. And we are giving away a mystery set of dice from Only Crits.
Wow. Mystery.
It could be any set. Actually, I think there's some limitations on what it could be. But within that set of limitations, the possibilities are limitless. But first, Grace, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling excited to go to PAX Unplugged this weekend.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. We're going to see Matt Mercer's.
Yeah, we're just going to hang out with our best friend, Matt Mercer.
We're going to see Matt Mercer's real body with all the skin on it and everything.
Well, I thought his real body must be like a cyborg, right? That's the only way he could do all those voices.
True, yes.
But yeah, so this episode is, going up in December. That means it's officially Christmas, even for us right now, because we're technically saying this in December.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I got a sidetrack there, though. I'm also really looking forward to PAX. This is going to be the biggest convention we've gone to yet out of the 3 RPG conventions that we'll have gone to.
We've already researched the panels and events.
Yeah, there's so much
that
going
we're
on.
interested in going to, which I feel like is the mistake we made at the last 2 conventions we went to. We didn't look at the schedules at all until the day of.
Yeah, those were a little different because we were attending
guesting
as performers in a sense. We were just doing panels, I guess is the word. We were panelists. Whereas with this one, we're pretty much just hanging out, getting to do whatever we want instead of having to sit at a table the whole time. So we're checking out what panels we're interested in. I'm mostly looking forward to Matt's and then one that Ginny D and the Dungeon Dudes are doing. And I'm just excited to visit all the booths and shop around a bit.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to doing some play testing, which we are kind of going to do if we can't find anything else to do at the time, we might hit up the play testing room. Yeah. But also there was a panel, Fight Me Now Kiss. As an aspiring Thirsty Swords Lesbians GM, that is an area that I'm interested in being educated. Yeah. Like PvP, but also romance.
Is there a neat word for the game master in that game?
I don't know.
I'm just curious. Yeah. And we're going to see some people we know. Our good pal, Steven the Animal, will be there.
Yes.
His first public appearance as the animal. and yeah, some of our friends from our regular game group are going to be going as well. Steven would be in our regular game group if he didn't live in another state. Lame.
There's stuff here that he could do. There's places for him to have a job. There's jobs. There's jobs coming out the butt of where we live.
Probably so. And and we're gonna see some other creator pals who we've some of whom we've met before, some of whom we haven't. It's gonna be a good time. And I'm going Christmas shopping today. Yeah, it's Christmas.
It's cool. It's Christmas time. I'm gonna sit around the house and
just chill,
do laundry, I guess. I've had the last 3 days off.
Yeah, because we're coming off of Thanksgiving right now.
Yeah, and then I have another 3-day work week next week, hopefully, as long as my time off gets approved, which I don't see why not, because my managers are like, take more time off. You have too much.
Yeah, and it doesn't roll over.
It doesn't roll over. So it's bad for the budget for me to not go on vacation.
Yeah. It was like one of our friends yesterday who originally said he wasn't going to be able to make it to the session. And he showed up and he was like, I'm taking a mental health day. So yeah, just take some mental health days. All right, why don't we get into this? Our first segment, the quick build, where we roll 3d6 and try to summarize the topic of this episode in exactly that many words.
And it's my turn to roll,
right,
which means it's Bob's turn to describe.
10?
Yes, 10.
Where explaining the RPGs we played and want to play.
Nice.
And with the footnote of played in 2023 and will play or hope to play in 2024. So we played Dungeon Crawl Classics, kind of kicked that off in February, I think, very shortly after we moved here. Mm-hmm. I ran a session for a bunch of our friends here. I also played, well, and I guess I should say, because this is also following up from last year, or rather the episode we did like this at the beginning of the year, where I talked about wanting to run a DCC campaign this year. That did not happen. We've had a weekly campaign still for the most part, sometimes every other week, but mostly every week. But we never got a secondary campaign running. Perhaps next year, but at the same time, I have seeded enough DCC into our 5e campaign that there are now at least 2 players talking about getting the DCC core book. So I think it could happen next year.
I wonder if that interest will then translate into like regular DCC, because the way that we have it combined right now with 5e, I think the spells are like way more powerful. But then when they go to DCC and expect to be one-shotting every boss again, and it's not going to work that way.
yeah, I don't know. Like we really haven't played much leveled DCC. Like we've done a couple funnels, and I guess that's a good so like I don't know exactly how the spellcasting will balance out, but that's a great segue into another game that I played this year. Was X-Crawl Classics, which is, you could say, a hack of Dungeon Crawl Classics that uses a post-apocalyptic pulp blood sport focused gladiatorial style dungeon crawl televised tournament something or other setting.
The Hungry Games.
Yeah, I guess it's like Hunger Games, except like if it was on Spike TV.
Yeah, Hunger Games meets Mad Max.
Yeah, actually, that's probably pretty good. Yeah, and also I feel like Idiocracy.
Okay.
Because it's definitely just, they're supposed to be like random ads and stuff, and I don't know. I did one session of it. It was very fun to play in. I feel like it's something that you kind of need a GM who's really in the headspace to do that, because so much of it, like what makes it unique is very much the setting. And I think that session is somewhere on YouTube. So if it is, you could probably just try to Google like X-Crawl Classics live play and find a video with me in it. If you want to watch what that was like.
Just find it yourself.
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. If I don't know. I don't want to promise that I'll put the link down there if it isn't on YouTube. Yeah. What's a game that you play?
No one can see me nodding. I'm nodding. So I've still been playing the same online D&D campaign that I've been playing since early 2021, I want to say.
Yeah, I don't know exactly when you started, but it's been at least 2 years.
So since it's been 2 years, we are now taking a little break, and I am running a mini campaign. One of the campaign ideas I think I discussed in this one last year was a group of mortal dragonoids. So lizard folk, kobold, dragonborn are the permitted races, are working on activating all these different crystals to like make their ancient city, Erin Gems, safe from some rampaging, insane chromatic dragons. So that's happening. It is like it's a more condensed version of what I originally envisioned, because it's just designed to be like a break for me. And what else have I played? So we played obviously everything that Bob is doing.
You want me to say another one?
Yeah.
We played some Skate Wizards also very early this year. Skate
Wizards. We did Goons and Ghosts. That's always fun.
So those are two kind of similar systems mechanically, I think,
because
they're
both like one page.
Oh, yeah, you're
RPGs.
rolling 2d6 as the main mechanic. For Skate Wizards, it's like kind of generic DC of 10 to beat. You got like random magic in there, and it's very player driven, and that's the same way for Goons and Ghosts, where it's like 2d6. I think I think you do usually want to roll over in that, and you get like random equipment as well that the player kind of makes up what it does and you just agree on it. So yeah, 2 zine games that are a lot of fun. Oh, and for Skate Wizards, finally got a cassette player this year.
Yes.
And actually, and this is one we mentioned last year, I'll say. We did mention Skate Wizards. So yeah, we did play a couple sessions of that. I ran one here for some friends. And then I ran it at our friend's wedding for a couple people. At Ryan and Kelsey's wedding. Yeah.
We also played one session of Candela Obscura.
We did.
That was pretty cool.
And, something to mention there. Last year in this episode, I mentioned wanting to play more Call of Cthulhu, but
Candela Obscura is better.
Yeah. So this year, what happened?
Same vibe.
Yeah. So very, very similar vibe. Candela Obscura is definitely a fictional world, but within that world, same vibe. And this was basically me just preparing for a month of one-shots of different games, all kind of around Halloween. And, I took out Call of Cthulhu first and was like, yeah, I've been looking forward to running this. And then realized, like, you know what, even I haven't read this in a long time, haven't thought about it. It's not very complicated, but it is still more complicated than Candela Obscura, which I think was easier for brand new people to play.
I think
Call of Cthulhu would have
you
been.
could easily draw lots of inspiration from Call of Cthulhu and put it into the Candela Obscura system. You could make it totally Eldritch if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think it's almost kind of funny. Like Candela Obscura has a section of the book all about inspiration for it. It's like Appendix N basically, and it doesn't specifically mention Lovecraft anywhere. Now, a lot of things it mentions come from Lovecraft, but yeah, I feel like they kind of just wanted to avoid that topic in general to keep it more distinct from Call of Cthulhu, and to keep it distinct from
name.
Him. But all that said, very much I guess you wouldn't necessarily say cosmic horror, but it's still eldritch horror for sure. Mm-hmm. And that was fun.
Yeah,
I think I could say, I guess preemptively, we enjoyed, I think, everything we played this year.
Yeah, and I look forward to reading the Candela Obscura books that we have now.
Yeah, we got some books.
Because they're full of lore.
Yeah, it's half lore.
I can't wait to assimilate it.
Nice. Some other ones we played all in the same weekend were Cairn, Index Card RPG, at least I played one session of that, and Easy D6. Which I know you did play that one at least.
Also,
as well.
The spontaneous system that I created, what did I call it again?
I don't remember because I wasn't in that one. I'll give some context while you're thinking. But we had a kind of mini event with just a couple other creator friends. Also relatively early this year. I think this was in the spring where we just got together and played a bunch of games.
Oh, I remember now.
What was it?
Reputation is everything.
Okay.
It's called that because your reputation stat is your only stat.
There we go. And so I didn't get to play in that session that Grace ran. But we kind of kicked off that weekend with a big session of Cairn with 7 or 8 players. And that was the first time we played that. Now there's a second edition of Cairn in the works that apparently is fully backwards compatible. And it looks like the character creation is... at a glance, I haven't really looked into it much, but at a glance, it looks like the character creation is kind of the main thing they've changed up.
One Cairn.
Yeah. So I don't know. I look forward to seeing where that game goes because I've also been rereading it a lot recently, getting a sense of how I could try to use how these monsters work essentially in a more D&D-like game because I think it's a lot easier on the GM. But that's kind of a whole other topic. But yeah, also that weekend, I played a session of Index Card RPG. Yeah, so that's also a very D&D-esque game, but just simplifies a lot of things, streamlines a lot of it, and it was very fun. This guy who ran it was an excellent GM, and it was just a super fun session. Lots of hero coins being tossed back and forth, basically, so we got to do some epic stuff. It was a good time. And then Easy D6 was also pretty interesting because it's a obviously D6-based game, but kind of, reaches for that D&D vibe, but in its own way. And I also had fun there.
It's easy.
Yeah. One other that I played this year was DC-20, which is the Dungeon Coach's like D&D-esque RPG that he's working on right now. The alpha is out. It is also a fun game. And I think the best thing I can kind of summarize it as is somewhere between D&D 5e and Pathfinder, but a lot less intimidating than Pathfinder because it has like a lot more that you can do. And I still think the GM kind of needs to know the system very well, or it's like it'll be better off. Like you'll get more out of it when the GM knows the system very well, but super fun to play. Like I came in as a total noob, not knowing anything about it, played a session. That one is on YouTube, and I'll link that below for you.
All right, so what are we looking forward to? There's
still some others we've played this year. We played a lot of RPGs this year. So I'll say the others real quick are I played a game of the Cypher system, which I didn't know anything about going into it, and I had a lot of fun, but then didn't look up anything after it. So it was kind of like in one ear, out the other for me. It was like very sort of cyberpunk kind of setting, which we don't usually play in. It's just not like a huge interest of mine, but it was a super fun game. And if I had the opportunity to play it again, I would. It is just not my shtick for running it, I think. And then the other two that we played are Shadow Dark and Monster of the Week. What do you think about those?
Yeah, Monster of the Week. That one was fun.
Powered by the Apocalypse.
I got to become a half coyote creature or something like that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did something weird at the end where I absorbed a spirit animal of some kind.
Yeah.
The GM of that was really, like, the characters were all pretty well developed, like well voiced and everything. So I really enjoyed that one. And what was the other one?
Shadow Dark.
Shadow Dark.
Yay.
Yes. That's one of my, like, looking forward to.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get the actual
book
full RPG soon. I already have a Shadow Dark t-shirt.
True.
Stingbat.
Same. Except not the Stingbat one, just the regular one.
I got the Stingbat one.
And then finally, one other that we mentioned, because I think it's related to this, last year was I talked about wanting to play or wanting to run 5 Torches Deep. But I feel like
we didn't do that.
Shadow Dark pretty much replaced that for me. Because it's just like, they go for the same thing, which was streamlining and old schoolifying 5e. And I just think that Shadow Dark did it in a more like presentable way that is maybe a little closer to 5e, but and also has the very fun mechanics of like ain't no dark vision and torches last 1 hour real time. And that was just really fun when we played it. Like it actually just made the dungeon experience a lot more fun.
But they always the torch that we had went out at the worst possible time.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what made it memorable.
Which was awesome. And what allowed me to escape with the treasure by myself, abandoning the entire rest of the party.
So, I'm definitely looking forward to more DCC next year, probably more Cairn, definitely more Shadow Dark, reading Candela Obscura. Like, honestly, a lot of these I'd like to keep up with in one way or the other. So what about 2024?
New stuff for 2024. Well, I have another mini campaign idea for my online group.
Do I know about this one yet?
Maybe. I've mentioned it briefly, I think, but basically going back in time to the past of one of the PCs who lived prior to the apocalypse and then reawakened after it, and basically the events of his life before, because he was like an adventurer.
Okay.
But not from his point of view, but rather from the point of view of some like lower level soldiers in an army that he was allied with. So basically they're going to be supporting this main PC as he essentially like at the end of this huge battle like goes on a solo mission to try and kill a vampire.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I would love to see how that turns out.
That's probably going to be after the dragon thing, if I'm not yet feeling ready to go back to the main campaign.
Yeah.
But then for our home group, once you're done with
Tomb of
Annihilation, I'm going to run Waldergeep Descent into the Dragon's Heist, where I combine Baldur's Gate, Descent into Avernus, and Waterdeep Dragon Heist to do the first 5 levels as Dragon Heist, and then the rest of it descend into Avernus.
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to that just because I've realized, like, dang, dude, I've been a DM only for 2 years now. Like, I feel like I used to play a lot more often. And it's truly become forever DM. Obviously not forever, but I'm ready to play, dude. And that's also why I'm really excited about, like, some of our friends talking about picking up the DCC core rulebook and stuff, because maybe one of them will run something from time to time.
Speaking of some of our friends as though.
I didn't even write this one down.
Stormlight Archive RPG coming out.
Stormlight Archive.
So
tell the fans about that.
We and a couple of our friends... Now, so our friends got us onto Stormlight Archive. Brandy Sandy.
Brandon Sanderson, for those who don't actually know.
Brando Sando. So we both read the first 4 books. Yeah. Next one hasn't come out yet.
5,000 pages of literature.
Yes. I'm the only one who actually was brave enough to have the physical books and carry those around.
Yeah.
But we both read those, and now our friend who is probably the biggest fan of Brandley Sandley out of the 4 of us who have read them, he's trying to read like the whole Cosmere, like everything in it. I feel like
he might have already.
Yeah.
And now he's just keeping up with
I think he said it was his goal for this year, so I don't know if he's read everything yet, but he said that he might be interested in running that. Yeah,
he said he's interested in running games, but just doesn't want to do 5e. He said it seems like a little complicated, and like it can be.
We'll see if Stormlight Archive is better or worse.
I feel like it's gonna be less crunchy. I think it is like still D20 rollover, so it's gonna have the same basic mechanics. I imagine fewer options for characters because it's just gonna be based on like
everybody's just a Knight Radiant.
Basically. It's like what I assume. I really don't know much about it yet. I don't know if much has been revealed yet.
I could see them doing like an Artificer type class too, where you're like an Artifabrian.
Oh, yeah.
And you get gadgets.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Maybe just like a regular light-eyed general fighter type guy.
Yeah, perhaps. Definitely a lot of ways it could go. So I'm excited to see what comes of that game. And then, hopefully get a chance to play it next year.
Oh, but then why would they have these non-Radiant classes when there's like 9 orders of Radiance in the first place?
Maybe it's like you start as whoever, but then...
but then you make
like
your
everybody
wand.
is a Radiant and you get more moves.
Yeah.
As you become more Radiant.
More Radiant, as you say your ideals.
Right.
That's coming out. Also Daggerheart.
That's a big one for me. I'm really excited just to try it because I feel like it was such a revolving door almost once I feel like a lot of people found out it's not D20 based. Where
what is it, D6?
It's 2D12. So it's almost the same.
Yeah,
it's almost the same like range. Like it's almost just as swingy, but it's like with a bit of a bell curve.
You do it like with fear.
Yeah, one of them represents fear, one of them represents hope, and depending on like which one was higher, the thing is, I guess the valid criticism is it's one of these systems similar to Powered by the Apocalypse where even like you can succeed but at a cost. Mm-hmm. So it's like there'll be a little bit of a downside even if you meet the role, which a lot of people don't like because it's just the GM coming up with like, improving these little inconveniences all the time. And
well, you can also let the players choose,
which is how I like try to do it when we have natural ones and stuff. But it would be happening apparently 50% of the time, I guess, if it's just, the fear die being higher. So that's what people were kind of concerned about, but
we'll see.
95% of people who are following this haven't had the chance to play it yet. So, like, including myself. So, we're going to see when we actually get it on the table.
There's probably also lots of lore in it.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. There's going to be tons. Grace is making her lore face right now. If you couldn't tell by the way her voice changed when she said lore. All right. And I wanted to, just say a couple really quick. So I also backed Knave 2E shortly after Shadow Dark. Didn't even play Knave 1, so I'm just excited to try that. It's kind of like an old school but rules light sort of game, similar to Cairn, I think. I don't really know, but I'm going to find out. Also, Mouse Ritter. That's been on our shelf for a while. That's like Cairn / it's kind of in the same family as all these games with Cairn, Knave. Maze Rats, so even like Skate Wizards is inspired by that.
Yeah.
But
I just saw that on the shelf and I was like, are we ever gonna play this?
Yeah, I'd like to. It's I'm pretty sure a 1d20 roll over, which makes it a little different. Maybe you do roll under your stat in that. But you're a little mouse knight is what the name translates to, I believe. And, living in this tiny little world, being a cool, like, fantasy hero, except you're a little mouse. So it's very fantastical, and I'd like to try it out. Deathbringer by Professor Dungeon Master. I don't know if that's, like, becoming beefed up next year or if that's, like, a long-term project. And, and speaking of that, he also made a game, Professor Dungeon Master made a game called The Eldritch Hack, which is, like, a Call of Cthulhu style, but D20 version that's just super simple and was a contender for our Halloween round of games, but didn't get to it.
I'm nodding again.
Thirsty Sword Lesbians?
What? I mean, yeah, I still want to play Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I still haven't run any Thirsty Sword Lesbians, but I feel like I want to try to play in a group of Thirsty Sword Lesbians before I run it myself, and I just haven't gotten around to it. I probably just have to find a group on Roll20 or something.
Yeah.
To do that.
But now that we have more experience with Powered by the Apocalypse too, I think it'll be easier.
Yeah, that's also true. I just want to see how it's done.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I want to make sure I truly get the vibe.
Yeah.
I know I make my own vibe
but
to an
it's also
extent, but
like the game is your own,
Yeah. Also just like the time, because I was putting so much into my like online campaign that I don't really have time to prepare other stuff from scratch. And while the Thirsty Sword Lesbians books I do have like adventure hooks, they're extremely bare bones. They don't provide like any NPCs or any real direction on where the plot should go. So they're mostly settings. They're more settings than adventures.
And kind of for all the same reasons. That's why we haven't played The One Ring yet, which is also on the shelf. And like we have the starter kit now, we got the main rule book, I've read through it all, but it's just like, I kind of feel like I want to see this done or have the experience as a player first. So, literally the same reasons.
To play the actual One Ring RPG, not the 5e conversion.
Yeah. Because the 5e conversion, I just don't think it's going to do it right.
Yeah, what's
I don't
the
think
point?
It's going to feel like Lord of the Rings. I think it's going to feel like 5e.
It's not going to feel different enough.
Oh, and what about 1D&D?
What about 1D&D?
It's the same. It's just
Who
5e,
gives a swear word?
Who gives a short rest? That's what she was saying. As we'll be back after our little tiny break.
Whew.
We're back, and it's time for a random encounter where we roll to read your stories and questions, generally about this topic, and the person who wrote our favorite story or question takes home the loot.
1.
Nice. So this is from our previous winner, Camel X. Me and my group have tried quite a few different games. We've tried the Avatar Last Airbender RPG, Western system called Cow Punchers, and now I'm going to be running Fallout game for my family. And on the list of games to try is Mutants and Masterminds, Call of Cthulhu, and Cyberpunk Red. Your channel is a big reason I've went and tried so many of the systems, and I thank you for that, Mr. Bob and Grace. Cool
Mr.
emoji,
Grace.
cool emoji. Most of these games have been one-shots or just trials, but there's much potential for future campaigns. I would like to share a story about how a new system just didn't work out for us. It was the Cowpunchers RPG I referenced before. The systems were too foreign to me and my group. Me and the group played a couple sessions and weren't quite disappointed since we've been trying to find a history-based Western system without fantasy elements. So when it didn't work out, we felt quite defeated. Fortunately, there is hope. We've found a supplement for the game that adds a few more familiar mechanics, and we're going to try again after we finish up the 5 different campaigns I'm GMing at the moment.
Ugh.
Wow.
Cowpunchers sounds awesome. That's a great name.
Yeah, I wonder what the system is like. Gonna have to look that one up.
How weird could it be?
I'm gonna write that down. No, I forget. You didn't play in the Western,
I did
goofy
not.
one-shots. Okay. I wasn't sure if you were in the second one. I knew you were in the first one. But yeah, I, very early on in my GMing career anyway, did a kind of Western hack of 5e, I guess you could say. I don't even know if we really used stats because it was very much just role-play and improv based. Like, it'd probably work better as one of these systems I described before, like, with mechanics more similar to Goons and Ghosts and Skate Wizards. But I don't know. We used D20, I guess, and it all worked out. It was super fun. And yeah, we just made it up. So it wasn't like an established rule set or anything. So we didn't have to worry about, these rules aren't that fun because we just were changing everything on the fly. So don't be afraid to just start there with just your own imagination and the buy-in of your players. But Cow Puncher sounds fun.
Is there just 2 stats, cow and punch?
Oh, and one other thing I want to comment on here is I also am interested in trying Last Airbender RPG. I know that's also powered by the Apocalypse, but it's just it's like, when the heck are we going to have the time to play all these games, man? So, sooner or later, but I would like to try it.
4.
Brian de Etweiler. Well,
Dateweiler?
I did recently win a copy of Historica Arcanum in a Trivial Pursuit game, LOL. Really excited to try delving into Blades in the Dark 2024 and maybe finally finishing Lost Mine of Phandelver with the kids. 2+ years so far. Cool.
2 years of Lost Mine of Phandelver?
Well, they probably don't play very often. But yeah, that's awesome that he was at the Pittsburgh Con.
Yeah.
And in our Trivial Pursuit thing. Glad to see you watching the podcast. Cool. / listening to the podcast. There's not much to watch here, but it's a really cool GIF.
Animation.
It's a really cool looping GIF that cost me way too much money to have made. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, Lost Mines of Phandelver. Actually, I wanted to comment on that earlier because even after Tomb Annihilation, I feel like we need a one-shot where, you revisit Thunder Tree to return the bow actually fight a dragon in this, what has become a year-long campaign.
We could do the Shattered Obelisk.
I'm not interested. It's too big. It's too much. Yeah, I just want to keep it simple with that.
If I wasn't already committed to Walder Geep Descent into the Dragon's Heist, I might have done that just because we already did.
Yeah, I do really like Lost Mines of Phandelver, so I'm sure the expansion is cool, but just timing's not good.
6.
From Guru Gru, I want to try one of the Lord of the Rings TTRPGs. Middle-earth role-playing, One Ring, Adventures in Middle-earth, whatever. And that's it.
There's way more than I thought there was.
Yeah, Middle-earth role-playing was from like the 80s or 70s maybe even. And then Adventures in Middle-earth was the one that existed around the time that we were playing. And I regret not buying it because then it was discontinued. But that was like kind of the first 5e Lord of the Rings thing. And then One Ring, of course, is like its own thing now, but they also have since made a 5e version. So
2.
From Mini Moose. This year, I tried one-shots for Pathfinder 2e, Mothership, Knave 2e, Conan, Blackbirds, which I haven't even heard of, and Call of Cthulhu. I'm hoping to try DC-20, Dolmenwood, Shadow of the Weird Wizard, Coriolis, and Mythic Bastion Land soon. Knave was too light and absent in aid for me as a DM, but my sister and nephew liked the simplicity. On the other side, Pathfinder 2e was too crunchy and oppressive with rules for everything that clogged up play. Blackbird seemed boring with chance of things occurring too low and combat that dragged forever. Mothership was hysterical and deadly that kept up a horrifying tense feel. All my players died except one that escaped the alien ship only to go insane from their android after getting paranoia of androids during the away mission. And Modifius's Conan was heroically cinematic feeling. 2 of my players want to play a campaign with that system, but I've warned them the actual rulebook is a mess, especially for Magic. And recently I watched a chill dude play a rocking good time with DC-20. That's probably me. So hey, proof that this video is on YouTube somewhere. I think I'll have trouble getting my group to try most of the other games that I still want to test out. They've continually declined to play OSC/TCC, Coriolis, and Sentinels comics. So wow, lots of experimentation this year. That's really cool to hear.
I wonder what Shadow of the Weird Wizard is.
Well, it's made by one of the people who was like a major designer, but not one of the main major designers of 5e. And I think he also worked on 3rd edition D&D as well. Rob Schwalb.
But what is the RPG?
Well, it's very much like I think it kind of sits somewhere between like 5e and 3rd edition in terms of its mechanics. And it's based on his original game, Shadow of the Demon Lord, which apparently a lot of people love, but it's just very heavy on like this like gritty and like gross theme of like demons are gross and scary. Shadow of the Weird Wizard is supposed to be more generic fantasy, I think.
Then I want to play Shadow of the Demon Lord.
Okay, well, cool.
5.
5 is from the Smiley Trilobite. I wrote an RPG to run for kindergartners at my aftercare. We have only D6s and most of my players don't know math or how to read. Ain't that the truth?
So fun.
So relatable. No. Combining tiny dungeons and easy D6. We have 3 stats each. We have 3 stats, each with an icon. The players choose which to be good at. Nice. Yeah, roll 3 dice for those checks. Which to be bad at, roll 1 die. Okay. Otherwise, roll 2 dice. That's a cool mechanic. If any show a 5 or 6, the check is a success, and usually only 1 is needed, as in a 5 or 6 for success. Okay. Combat uses tallied hits, and each success is a hit. All roles are player-facing, and sessions are bite-sized. One kid at his first session said to his peers, "We should all have different strengths and weaknesses and items, so we spread out." Strategic gaming for a kindergartner. Over time, we clarified expectations like taking turns and no infighting, and added rules like exploding d6s and cashable danger dice for rolling a 1. We all have fun, and the kids learn words like pillar and minotaur.
That's so cool.
That is extremely wholesome.
That's awesome.
Honestly, sounds like a...
priming the next generation of tabletop gamers.
Yeah.
Doing the Lord's work, Smiley Trilobite.
Yeah, and the fact that, like, again, you're able to run the system for kids who can't even read the rules or add, basically. Or, like, maybe add a little bit.
Math is dumb. Math is dumb and fake.
Yeah. I mean, it's all made up, dude. It's not like the laws of the universe.
Yeah, just some really old guy made this stuff up.
What? Just the guy who invented math?
Yeah, the one guy. The one guy who invented math. It's like, I want to make everything worse for every high schooler in the future. And he made math.
Yep. That's the lore. That's the lore behind math.
Mr. Math himself.
Yeah, that's who it's named after.
3.
This is our last one already, I think. Yeah.
It's long.
Yeah, so this one, they said here from Carcy Sear. 3 topics, Bob. 1 as GM, 1 as player, 1 for the future. Topic 1. This year, I started an Icon campaign online with my old friends. Icon is a very gonzo tactical hero fantasy game made by the Lancer guys. My favorite bit so far was our first boss fight. Heroes needed to save a local village elder's son from a nocturnal demon imprisoned at the bottom of a tower. I got to startle my players with its 200 HP health bar, and that it gets a turn for every player each round, and most importantly, it changes phase every turn. I decided in phase 1 it was like a living shadow. Its legs fade away into the darkness on the ground, and it has bat wings like silhouettes. In phase 2, multicolor eyes opened all over its body, causing fear and paranoia. In phase 3, it shows its white fur and great maw and sharp claws, and it bleeds from every joint. Really fun to describe. Sounds like a Grace monster. Okay, the fight ended when their Imperial frenemies entered the fray. The heroes decided to use it as a distraction, swiped the relic stone from the Imperials, and the Colossus player used his superheroic endurance to leap straight through the metal ceiling to make their escape, leaving poor Hela, the Imperial captain, to watch her troops die. Yeah, I mean, that sounds very exciting. I don't know anything about that system, but it sounds cool. And then topic 2, I moved to a new city this year and looked around for games. I joined up to play Call of Cthulhu for the first time. I played Dr. Maximilian Hurst, a parapsychologist with a radio show about paranormal and its effects on the psyche. We're apparently part of a group of intellectuals studying the supernatural who were tasked with rescuing a man from a mental asylum. Dr. Hurst got to leverage his radio platform to speak with a very cryptic old patient of the asylum before visiting it and promptly applying for a job there. Never did get the job, but there was a horrifying ritual happening in just a couple days, and the gang went to save our guy. The other 4 were much more valiant. Dr. Hurst got a good look at the horrible god causing it all before promptly running for his life. Only 2 players survived, but we saved the guy. Topic 3. I'm really interested in running Trophy Dark this year. I picked it up from my local game store before I moved, and it's a beautiful and simple dark fantasy horror game about treasure hunters going on their probably last expedition into a forest that will twist their minds and bodies. I love how many adventures they packed into just one book, along with the core rules. Thanks for reading this, Bob.
You're welcome.
You're what? Hey. No. Yeah, wow. So, Icon, don't know it. I've heard a lot of people recommend Lancer to me, and like just pretty much in YouTube comments only, though. I've never had a person I know actually say like
Lancer
this is a
fixes
fun game.
this.
So that's why I haven't tried it myself. But that sounds like a fun boss fight. Call of Cthulhu? Yeah, sounds like Call of Cthulhu with only 2 people making it out and at least one person losing their mind, basically.
The last one sounds cool to me.
Yeah, and Trophy Dark. Never heard of that either. I guess it sounds like a little indie game. Kind of, yeah, the premise of it being like one last job.
Yeah.
But for adventurers.
The job of a lifetime. You can retire on it, which is great because you turn into a blob when you do it.
Yeah, twist their minds and
the
bodies.
Wealthiest blob in all the land.
The American dream.
Yeah.
Well, this episode has gone kind of long already. So I've noticed that. Our episodes have gotten increasingly longer over the course of this year. I think we need to rein it in 2024. But
I want to make them longer.
Well, you don't have to edit them, so... All right. And for sharing our favorite story/question, definitely into story, this episode's loot winner is Smiley Trilobite, raising the next generation of RPG gamers. You're going home with a mystery set of dice from Only Crits, but if it would be a lot more useful, can probably get you just like a pack of D6s from Only Crits instead. So we'll figure that out ourselves. But if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and
18.
Snap that like button. To be eligible for loot and support the show, consider subscribing or joining Patreon, or join as a YouTube channel member, which is a new thing. So patrons and channel members get these episodes a week early. Members get it early on YouTube. Patrons get it early on Patreon. But patrons, of course, also get the cool feature of the RSS link, so you can listen through other podcasting platforms and new 5e supplements every month. So do what works for you. All are awesome ways to support the channel, and we love our members and patrons for keeping us on the air. Thank you for your support, and keep building.
Stop building.